In section 3 of module 2, we're going to start looking at equations of linear functions. And we got some important vocabulary to understand. So there's this thing called standard form. And what's important about standard form is that you can see that ax plus by equals c. The only thing that's important is that a has to be greater than or equal to 0 when you're doing the homework assignments. So you want to make sure that a is greater than or equal to 0. That's not always true in all textbooks, but in this particular case, that's what they're asking us to do. So a has got to be positive, and then it doesn't matter about b or c. And of course, notice here, a and b are not both 0, so they can't both be 0. And a, b, and c are integers, so keep that in mind, integers with the greatest common factor of 1. Okay, so that's standard form. So ax plus by equals c. We'll get into that a little bit more. Slope-intercept form you are used to, so that is y equals mx plus b, where m is the slope, b is the y-intercept. Of course, the point at the y-intercept would be 0, comma, b, because remember that x is 0 at the y-intercept. So 0, comma, b would be the actual point. And then point-slope form, we have y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1, where x1, y1 is a point on the line. Okay, it can be any point. Normally, a lot of times you may use the intercept. One of the two intercepts could be x-intercept or y-intercept. Doesn't have to be, it just has to be a point somewhere on the line. And then this x and y actually will just stay exactly where it is. So we would just leave it in the equation. And I'll explain that once we get there. Okay, so let's move on to the actual lines. So linear equations in standard form. So we want to get this ax plus by equals c. So notice in this case, if I'm looking at these three numbers here, a is going to be 2, b is going to be -7, and c is going to be -3. So they're all integers. They're at the only common denominator in there is a 1, so I can't divide anything out. If this were 4 and -14 and -6, then I would have to divide everything by 2. So you'd want to make it the smallest a number that nothing goes into all three of them. So that's what we're looking at. So a is 2, b is -7, and c is -3. So that's really all we're looking at in that particular case. Okay, so we're just kind of checking that out and seeing what that value is. Okay, I think those are just the answers. And so moving on to actually writing them. So here we have an equation. Our equation is y equals 2/5 x plus 14. So we have y equals 2/5. Sorry, I guess I wrote this down wrong. So let me open this up, which is not how you do it. Hold on. Gotta move some stuff out of the way so I can get that. Okay, there it is. So I want to be able to open this up. And we're going to see if we can erase the 3. We can. Good deal. And so that should be a 2/5 x plus 14. So that's what we should have for that. We have to figure out what a, b, and c are. Now notice that the x and y are not on the same side. So we need to move everything to the, or not everything, we need to move the x over here to this side. So to do that, we're going to subtract. So we subtract -2/5 x from both sides. Of course, these are not like terms here, so we can't combine them. So we have -2/5 x plus y equals 14. And now they're not all integers, so what I have to do is I have to multiply. I have to figure out what is my common denominator, and that's going to be 5, because this first one here, this has a 5. This is 1 over 1. This is 14 over 1, so my lowest common denominator would be 5. Okay, so I'm going to multiply everything by 5. So that means I'm going to multiply this one by 5, this one by 5, and this one by 5. And of course, these two cancel. So I get -2x plus 5y equals 70 if I multiply 5 times 14. And Can't have a negative there for the answers based on this book. However, like I said, I will accept on test an answer of -2, but for the book, I want to make sure that you get the right answer when you're typing it in. So we have 2x, so what we do is we change the sign of all of them. So that means a equals 2, b equals -5, and c equals -70. So let's take a look at that. So there's my original equation. We move this over to the other side. We multiply everything by -5, so we multiplied ours by 5, and then -1. We just did it in 2 steps. So notice in this case, a is 2, b is -5, and c is -70. Okay, exactly what we said there. Okay, so let's move on and actually do a problem on our own. So we've got our a, b, and c values that we can see, and again, 2, -5, and -70. Okay, let's get the next one. So now what we want to do is we want to convert an equation over to standard form, and we aren't going to follow any steps specifically, but y equals 2/3 x plus 1/2. So y equals 2/3 x plus 1/2. What I'm going to do is I'm going to move the x over to the other side. So I'm going to subtract it. So I have -2/3 x and -2/3 x to move it. So those two cancel. So I have -2/3 x plus y equals 1/2. And now my lowest common denominator, what do the two numbers go into in the denominator? That's the lowest number that I can figure out, and that is 6. So 3 goes into 6, and 2 goes into 6. So that means I'm going to multiply everything by 6. Of course, 6 and 3 cancel to become 2. Nothing cancels the 6 on the y, and 6 divided by 3 and divided by 2 is 3. So we have -4x, right? So we have the -4x there, plus 6y equals 3. And then we're going to multiply everything by -1. So we're going to change all the signs. So 4x minus 6y equals -3. So a equals 4. B equals -6, and C equals -3. So 4, 6, and -3. So we have 4, -6, and -3. And then we check our answer and everything looks good. Okay, so that's all we're doing is just going through and making sure that we understand how to do those. Okay, so now you have a check in standard form for linear equations. You're going to put them all in standard form and figure those out, and then you'll come back and watch the second video.